Well, hello. Once again, dealing with yes or no answers to some substantial question. Today's question is could we do without the internet? And now, the people who say yes, we could, which I'll get to in a minute, acknowledge that there would, of course, be inconvenience involved in not having the internet, but they feel that the benefits of not having it really outweigh that inconvenience, and so they feel, yes, they could live without it. Those that say no catalog the essential services and information and benefit that we get from the internet and say it is just so overwhelmingly part of our lives that we simply couldn't do without it. So there you go. Well, let's start with those who talk about how we could do without it. And the first and most obvious point is that we did do without it in the, let's say, in the 1970s and much of the 1980s. We were an advanced, fast-moving society and economy. It wasn't any sense of great hardship or a lack of ability to communicate, get information, and so forth. We just didn't know what the alternatives were, and we seemed to get along fine. And secondly, there would be quite a lot of benefit from not having the internet around. For example, we might relearn the art of conversation, face-to-face encounters with people rather than really dealing with them on a digital basis. We might relearn the art of letter writing. We might have some wholesome substitutes for the use of our leisure time. Let's say, for instance, exercise and reading books versus computer games and inane chat over phones. There would also be a more civilized conversational approach and atmosphere at mealtime. I've actually seen people in restaurants sitting around a table where everyone was looking at his or her phone. I mean, that is kind of ridiculous, isn't it? And on top of all this, there's some really bad stuff that comes on the internet which would be eliminated or in any case reduced. There's suicide advice, there are terrorist information for making weapons and bombs, there's nasty pornography, cybercrime, people hacking into your account, stealing your money, ransoming your computers. There's a lot of really nasty stuff going on the internet, and much of that would be diminished. So, hey, that would really be quite a benefit. So, for all of those reasons, the Yes Group thinks not only could we do without it, but it would really be worth it. Okay, what about those who say we couldn't do without it? Well, I suppose first and foremost is the fact that the business world, nations, systems for management of all kinds are so internet dependent that we would nearly collapse without it. At the very least, in the case of corporations that design, manufacture, distribute physical products, it would take them much longer to carry out the processes involved, thus ramping up costs. We, the consumers, would be the victims of that through higher costs, so that's not too good. Secondly, the lack of readily available information would once again slow things down. One would have to go to the library and go through reference books or subscribe to elaborate paper journals in order to get the information we needed. One suspects that the consumption of paper for periodicals and such would go up, thus requiring the chopping down of more trees. For many people, not having readily available online health advice would be a huge disadvantage, almost a crippling one in some cases. The notion that you can find a variety of different explanations for whatever your malady is and for whatever treatment is proposed is so much better than depending on just one person, your general practitioner or your guru or whatever. The telephone companies would certainly take advantage with no Skype, no WhatsApp, no Zoom. Suddenly we're back into the business for paying for our phone calls and paying for our long-distance phone calls and our video calls. They would certainly do very well out of it. We wouldn't. It would be a huge loss to education, particularly as we've learned during this recent coronavirus crisis. We've managed quite impressively to substitute online education for presence in the classroom. And in some remote areas, online education is absolutely essential. It is said that for many underdeveloped countries, especially those in Africa, suddenly having access to free sources of education of all sorts through such marvelous organizations as Khan Academy, suddenly people who never even had the remotest prospect of education and now can have it. What a wonderful thing that is. It would be a shame not to have that available. And finally, the use of the internet in fighting crime has been astounding in recent years. For example, the availability of databases with fingerprints, DNA, and fibers, tire treads, and that sort of thing, allows really for instant identification of data and samples and information taken from crime scenes. We'd have to go back to the old ways, much slower. More criminals would get away with their crimes. What a sad development that would be. Well, what's my take on all of this? Well, I must say I acknowledge an awful lot of the disadvantages and unpleasantness associated with the internet, although I'm a heavy user of it myself. But on balance, I guess I'd have to say I'm a no. I don't think we could do without it. I don't see how I could live without Amazon. So there it is, like it or not. But either way, subscribe, give me a like, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.